Hey everyone, Phil Morse here at Ministry of Sound with the second video in our 4-part training series. But firstly, I'd like to thank everyone who left comments on the last video. It had an awesome response. So if you haven't seen that video yet, please go back and take a look now. Before we get on to today's lesson, I want to show you something. Look at Simon Dunmore from Defected Records down there, and look at that dance floor he's got pumping. Now you don't need me to tell you that the mixing he's doing is up to the standard of the Ministry of Sound and therefore of course of any club. But as I touched on at the end of the last video, you may well be surprised to learn that what you need to know to do this doesn't necessarily mean 4 decks or cue juggling, sample trickery or any of the other new inventions that cloud what DJs really do. In fact, there are just 2 things you need to get right. And by the way, you do need to get them right in order to nail mixing and to play sets like Simon's doing down there. So if you're struggling to make any headway with your mixing, if you're feeling like your gear or your software or the way you're doing it is what's to blame for your lack of progress, if you're frightened you're never going to be able to pull off a decent set in a club or in a bar or just to make a really good mixtape, well, take comfort. Because we're going to head back to the studio now and I'm going to give you the surprising truth about what you really need to know and what you really need to be spending your time practicing to get to play great DJ sets in real venues just like this. So I know you're dying to know, what are these 2 things, Phil? What is it that I need to do differently? What is it I need to really crack in order to DJ like the pros, DJ like Simon there? You know, the tunes are flying out of the crates and he's got his eye on the audience, he's obviously having a great time. It's not causing him problems, he's loving it. What is it? Well, here they are. Music and mixing. Now, you might say it's pretty obvious, Phil. Of course, you need to be able to mix your music in order to DJ, but trust me, the way that pro guys look at this stuff is so different to the way you're probably looking at it. And until you crack these 2 things, you ain't gonna move up. So, let's look at music first. I'm gonna use a board for this and I'm gonna be quick because we've only got half an hour. I wanna spend 10 minutes quickly on the board just to crack this and give you the principles, and then we're gonna move on to the decks and do some mixing. So, the big problem basically is this. It's digital, because digital has made music abundant. Music used to be scarce. When you had to pack one of these to go to your gig, this is my old crate from many years ago, the records in there cost you a lot of money and took you many months, maybe even years to build up, and there's only like 80 tunes in there. Nowadays it's so different. Nowadays there's music everywhere, you know. DJs borrow their mate's 1 terabyte hard drive and it gives them 30,000 tunes or whatever, and they suddenly think they're a DJ because they've got more music than anyone else. Now, if you take one thing away from this video, it is that having a huge record music collection does not make you a good DJ. Hearing more music than anyone else makes you a good DJ. That's the thing that's going to refine your taste. That's the thing that's going to add to your experience and is going to teach you what crowds like and don't like. It's hearing the music. You basically have no right to be a DJ, and certainly to be a good DJ who gets paid, unless you're hearing more music than other people. So that's the first of our 3 stages I'm going to show you. By the way, these stages are really simple, because a big problem here is that some people, if you look on Digital DJ Tips, every now and then it comes up, some people have huge convoluted music methods. They think that because there's lots of music services out there and because you can organise your music in so many ways and so on, and there's cloud music and, oh, my playlists are on here and they're on here as well and all that stuff, they think that if they have a really clever system that's really intricate and a workflow for when their music arrives and they do this and they do that, so it makes them better. It kind of gives them a clever edge over other people. The trouble with that stuff is you can't keep it up. And they're the same people who change their music system all the time. And if you can't keep it up, you end up in a greater mess than you would have been in had you just not tried in the first place. Trust me, I've done it myself, and I've also seen other DJs do it. So over time, and by talking to a lot of the pros and also other DJs who come onto the website, we've worked out this pretty much fail-safe set of principles. So I'm going to draw a line down the middle here and a line down here, and this is our 3 sections. And the first section is research. Now this is when you are choosing stuff that interests you. And the key with research is that you do it all the time. Okay, so I'm going to give you an easy way of remembering it. This is the world. And in the world of music, there's a lot of stuff that you might possibly want to DJ with. So the more you can listen to the whole world of music, the more likely you are to find those bits. You don't have to hear everything, clearly it's impossible, but don't feel inferior that you're not hearing everything. Just put the time in to hear as much as you can. So how do we do this? I'll show you how I do it, show you the services I use. So there's all kinds of things, of course. There's the radio in the car. Real key, just set the presets on your car radio to stations that have got stuff on that you sometimes like. There's Mixcloud, SoundCloud, you can follow people, you can put their shows on your mobile phone or whatever. The really, really big one, of course, is just to have Shazam or SoundHound or whatever on your phone. I mean, that really is huge because it's tagging tunes. Don't buy them straight away or anything like that, we'll get onto that. Just tag them. Have a little notepad. I mean, I use Google Keep on my Android phone, but you could use the notepad that comes with, you know, your Apple phone or your Windows phone or whatever. Just have some kind of virtual notepad, or even a real notepad. You know, carry a pen and paper around. People still do. Whatever you use, and I would suggest listening to all these services and using things like this to write down tunes. Whatever you use, the point is that you are noting music that matters to you the second it matters to you. And this is not tunes that you want to DJ with, it's just stuff you like. Just know everything you like. Remember, you're doing this all the time. Don't put too much thought into this. If you think too hard about this, you won't do it. If you say, every time I hear a tune that I might possibly want, I'm going to look at it on wherever I am, I'm going to look at it on iTunes, I'm going to look at its genre, and I'm going to, oh, don't do any of that. Tag it, forget it, get on with your life. And that will allow you to listen to music all the time. You know, having a Bluetooth speaker in a couple of rooms in your house is another way of doing it. Drip, drip, drip. Get lots and lots of music into your life in any way you can think of. The important thing is all the time, keep it simple. So let's move on to the second part. Now, this is what I call refining your music. And this is where you actually buy stuff. This is where you add stuff to your collection. And you want to do this regularly. And by regularly, I mean like weekly is a good one. So let's say probably weekly, maybe at the weekend if you work in the week, you know, just put some time aside, but stick to it. So what's this all about? This is where you take the stuff that you found here and apply something critical to it. This is where you decide whether you want to put it into your collection or not. So we're going to ask a few questions about this music. These are the questions that I ask. Question number one, can you dance to it? You know, if you can't dance to it, you need a pretty good reason to be putting it into your collection. You might still want to. You might be like using a little bit of the vocal as a sample. You might think, oh, I can loop that or whatever. You know, there are the odd reason why you might want to put something in your collection that you can't dance to, but normally it's going to be stuff you can dance to. So I'll show you my questions. Can you dance to it? The second one is one that will stop you buying a lot of music that you never play, and that is, can I play it? You know, if you DJ commercial clubs, do you really want to start collecting 1988 techno or, you know, gabba or some other subgenre that you ain't never going to get to play? So be honest, can I play it? And if you can't play it, push it off to one side, you know, put it on your streaming service or keep it away from your DJing music, but don't buy it for DJing. So can you dance to it and can you play it? Now there's lots of other questions here. You know, is it old, is it new? By the way, buying old tunes is great because a lot of tunes never really made it. So it's like you've got this whole world of new tunes that no one else knows. Don't be scared about putting old and new tunes into your collection. Get the contrast right. You know, you don't just want a load of floor fillers. Fillers are good as well. Tunes that you put between the big tunes to give your set a nice flow. These kinds of questions will come with experience. But if you ask the two big ones, you know, can you dance to it? Am I likely to play it? That's going to whittle out a lot of this music, and it's going to mean that the stuff you add to your collection. So here's our laptop. The stuff that's coming from here into here has been thought about, and this is very, very different from getting that terabyte drive off your friend. Yeah, you can see the difference here. But there's a vital third step. Oh, by the way, where do you buy it from? Beatport, Amazon, Google Play, iTunes. Don't be scared of the mainstream stores, but also Beatport and the specialist stores are really good. They tend to have a slightly wider selection. Wherever you buy it from, let's talk about music file quality. If you're buying from these good stores, you shouldn't have a problem. If you're getting your music from elsewhere, maybe you're finding it on blogs, maybe you've got producer friends, maybe it's being shared, then you need to be careful about the file quality. Now, if you're using, this is a bit to write down, this is probably the only bit to write down, so get your pen out. If you're using 320 MP3s, 256 AACs, which is just Apple's file format, or WAV files, or another lossless format, but 9 times out of 10, it's WAV files. If you're using any of those, and you've got them from proper stores online, they're going to sound fine. If you're getting them from those unauthorized sources, which aren't always bad, by the way, you know, producers do share stuff on services and so on, you need to be careful, because just because it says it's one of those formats, it doesn't mean that it is. So think about when you have a photo on your computer and you shrink it down so you can upload it somewhere quickly. If you were to then resize it up again, it's going to look awful. Try it if you haven't. You know, it's going to look awful. And the reason is that there's so much information was taken away to make the smaller version. And the same thing happens with music files. To get a really big unaltered music file to something very small, you need to shrink it. And if you then re-save it as the big format, that information that got lost isn't going back into it. This is a long-winded way of telling you that if you are not buying from stores, be very careful. Use your headphones, listen to it. If it sounds rubbish, it probably is. Don't accept bad quality music. Okay, music file quality rant over. Let's now move on to what we do next, because this next bit is the reverse engineering that you probably don't know about, that I'm telling you all those DJs in the clubs have done. And that is preparing your set. In the old days, it's going to your music shelf and packing one of these with your 80 tunes for your set. Now 80 tunes is about right. Record boxes are that size for a reason. You know, say a tune's 5 minutes long. You're going to be playing 12 tunes in an hour. So you've got a 2-hour set, that's 24 tunes. 80 is going to be more than enough for that. You know, the rule of thumb is take twice as much music as you're actually going to play. So now you can see that having this 15 terabytes of music that you've done nothing with off your mate and you turn up at a gig is absolutely the wrong thing to do. You want twice the amount of music that you're actually going to play. So how do we do that? Well, here's our virtual record box. How do we get from our collection into here with twice the amount of music? Well, the collection has to be organised. There's only 2 things I would recommend you do in your collection to organise it. The first thing is, when the tunes arrive, tag them with the genre name that makes sense to you. If a funky guitar and a live drummer, but it's really danceable and there's some great uplifting female vocals in it, if that to you says disco, then tag all those tunes disco when they arrive. You know, if there's a certain sound that says old school hip hop, doesn't matter if the rest of the world disagrees with you, tag those tunes old school hip hop in your collection. Because when you're DJing and your creative mind says, hey, I want to play a bit of disco or old school hip hop now, you need to quickly get those tunes. And if you tag them with a genre that makes sense to you, you can. But if you've left the genre the same as it was put on by the producer or the shop you bought them from, you might have a load of tunes called pop that you call R&B, or that called hip hop that you call trap or whatever. So tag them with something that's important to you. Really, really, really key thing. And the second thing is to use playlists in your software. You know, there's smart playlists, there's all kind of clever stuff in iTunes, which is what I use, by the way, but you don't have to. You can use your DJ software, files and folders. Use what you want. The principle is tag them properly with the genre that makes sense to you and organize them. So once you've done that, packing this crate should be quite easy because you're going from stuff that you know. And pack twice the number of tunes that you need. So if you play a 2-hour set, pack a maximum of 80 tunes, absolute maximum. How do you pack them? Just drag them into a folder. Done. Just drag them into a folder, simple as that, and then use that folder in your DJ software. It doesn't matter where you do it. Because once you've done this, and by the way, this is let's call this the packing. We're packing our crate. Pack your crate. Once you've done this, let's say 48 hours before a gig, you've now got music you can practice, last minute practice sessions. You're practicing only with the tunes you're going to be playing. And you've also got yourself into a position where you're not going to be rabbit in the headlights, scared by 30,000 tunes at your gig. So important. So as long as you find a way of doing these 3 things, as I said earlier, doesn't matter how you do it, doesn't matter what services you use, you will be okay. And do this every week, and I promise you this time next year you're going to be looking at music in such a different way, and more importantly you're going to be looking at it like a pro looks at it. So that's the music bit covered. Let's move on, let's get back on the decks, and let's move on and talk about mixing. So what is it that pro DJs are doing in the DJ booth when they're mixing that rookies don't do? Well, to put it into one word, it's counting. And why is counting important? Because once you know how to count properly, you can mix properly. It's as simple as that. Now, why do rookie DJs and digital guys with their new gear not count? But the biggest culprit, apart from just not knowing about this stuff, is the sync button. They think the sync button means something more than what it actually means. What it actually means is synchronize. It lines up the nearest beats to the two tunes you're playing, and it gets them to the same speed so that the beats stay lined up. But that's not what's necessary for a good mix. It's necessary to have that in order to mix, but it doesn't make a good mix. Being able to count your tunes properly is what makes a good mix. Why? Well, I can tell you really, really easily. So it starts off with being able to count the beats in a tune. Sounds simple, yeah? Start your tune playing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on. Count the beats. That's not much use to a DJ because soon you're going to get up to numbers that are really big. And secondly, that's not really how music works, because music's arranged in bars and in phrases. So when we say counting and phrasing, a phrase of music is a number of bars. Let me break that down for you because it's really simple and you shouldn't get worried by this. You know, everyone out there on the dance floor knows this. They might not be able to put it into words, but they know it. And how do they know it? Well, let's just start counting the beats in a bar. 4 beats, 1 bar. So now we start a tune playing and we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I just counted 3 bars of music. Now that makes more sense. Try it, put a tune on, pause this video, put a tune on and try it. That makes more sense because that 1 has got more emphasis than the other 3 beats. That's why it's called a bar of music. It's just, it's a building block. And if we just take that one step further, 8 bars makes a musical phrase. And that's where as DJs, that's as far as we need to go. 8 bars makes a musical phrase. A musical phrase would be a chunk of music that kind of makes sense. And if you listen to a tune and count 8 bars, you'll find that after 8 bars, things will happen. If you're at the beginning of a tune, it might just be a cymbal crash, or maybe the bass line will come in, or maybe an extra element of percussion will come in. But soon enough, there'll be big things happening, a melody starting, a vocal starting, a verse starting, a chorus. It could be the beginning of a break, it could be the drop. But these things always happen on the first beat of an 8-bar phrase. Now, not always, always, always. Sometimes people break the rules, but they know they're breaking the rules. 9 times out of 10, this is how all dance music is constructed. So once we can identify those 8-bar phrases, we can mix. Because as long as we line up big chunks of 8 bars in the 2 tunes we're trying to mix, and as long as those 2 tunes are at the same speed, we've got a really good chance of everything happening. If you don't do those 2 things, if you get the beats lined up, it might sound all right, but in the end it's going to sound wrong because big things are happening at different times. Remember I told you big things happen at the beginning of a musical phrase. If you can line your tunes up so that their musical phrases are lined up, then all of a sudden your vocals are all hitting at the same time, or your drops or your bass lines. Now if you can line stuff up so that the end of one tune is overlapping the beginning of another, stuff is leaving one tune while it arrives at another, and it's all happening every 8 bars. That is the essence of mixing. When people tell you mixing's difficult and it involves cue points and samples and effects and all that stuff, you know, 80% of the time all DJs are doing is lining up the end of one tune with the beginning of another and lining up the musical phrases. So all I need to teach you now is how to properly count in the DJ booth and how to get the tunes at the same speed so that it's going to sound okay. And then that sync button becomes optional. Then you can DJ on these because you can line up the musical phrases and you can get the speeds the same. Then you can walk into a modern DJ booth which basically have these in them, and these don't really have sync buttons on them. You know, the very modern CDJs do, but most CDJs don't. You can use that because you know how to line up musical phrases and you know how to beat match. So the beat matching bit I'm going to show you in a minute. It's really, really dead simple, by the way. But first, I'm going to tell you how to count properly. And all DJs are doing this all the time. Take that one thing away. In the music section, I said listen to a lot, collect a little. That was the big takeaway. The big takeaway here is all DJs are counting when they're DJing. If you're not doing that, you're not DJing right. It's as simple as that. So how do we do it? Okay, we've got 8 sections of 4 beats. How do we count those so it makes sense? Well, it's really, really simple. You start by counting the first bar like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. The second bar you count like this. 2, 2, 3, 4. The third bar is going to be 3, 2, 3, 4, and you keep counting up until you get to 7, 2, 3, 4, 8, 2, 3, 4. And then you go back to the beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's that simple. Practice it. Go and put any dance tune on. Do it now. Again, press pause and do it now. Put any dance tune on and count like I just did. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, up to 7, 2, 3, 4, 8, 2, 3, 4, and then go back to the beginning. And you'll notice that on that big 1, at the beginning of each of those counting sections, something is happening in your tune. And it's as simple as that. That big 1 beat is where you start your next tune, and you start your next tune on a big 1 beat itself. On all DJ gear, there's that big Q button somewhere near the jog wheels or whatever, or the big start-stop button. That is where you want your tune to be ready to mix. I mean, it really is that simple. So once you can do that, all you need to do next is be able to get the beats the same so that the tunes are playing at the same speed. And that's what I'm going to show you now. I'm going to show you how to do it using manual beat matching, so that when you use the sync button, which I use, my friends use, you probably use, but when you use the sync button, you're doing it at the right time, everything's lining up and it's sounding right. So let's get on the decks and do that. So I've got a DJ controller here, and the beauty of what I'm about to show you now, why it's so exciting, is that you're using the tempo faders, the jog wheels and the cue points, all things that you find on CDJs as well, which means you can use this in just about any DJ booth anywhere, but also you could even do it on vinyl. So this is a real universal skill of DJing. I'm really excited to show you this shortcut to doing it. So what have we got? Well, I've got 2 tunes on here, and I thought it'd be a good idea to just listen to them, and I can show you that phrasing, that counting in action. So here's tune number 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 6, 2, 3, 4, 7, 2, 3, 4, 8, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. So, at the end of the 8-bar phrase, the kick drum disappeared and the girl started to sing, so something big happened. Let's listen to the other tune I've got lined up on the other deck. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 6, 2, 3, 4, 7, 2, 3, 4, 8, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. This time around the hand claps come in. 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 6, 2, 3, 4, 7, 2, 3, 4, 8, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and this time around a bass line's coming. So big things going on there, just as we are expecting. So there's our 2 tunes. What I want to do for the purpose of this demonstration is just loop the first 8 bars, or the first musical phrase of the first tune, the one that we're going to be mixing over the top of, the one that we are going to be mixing the new tune into. And the reason for that is just to keep it uniform, so not much is changing, and to keep it all clear. So let's start that one playing. So here we have a tune that we want to mix the second tune into without using the dreaded sync button. So how are we going to do it? Well, the first thing to explain here before we go any further is normally what we're about to do you'd be doing on your headphones. You'd have your headphones plugged in and you'd be using the cue button in order to listen to the incoming tune until you get it right. I'm going to do it over the speakers just so that you can hear exactly what I'm doing, of course. So the first thing to do, and here's the real trick, these 2 tunes are roughly the same tempo. You wouldn't mix tunes that weren't roughly the same tempo. So we know these are roughly the same tempo. And the tempo faders alter the tempo. So let's do something bold. Let's put the tempo of the incoming tune all the way up so we know it's really fast. And let's start playing it by hitting the play button on beat 1. Okay, so what's happening here? It started off sounding alright. The first beat, I'm going to press Q now and get it back to that first beat. The first beat sounded okay, the second one sounded okay, and then they started to slip. That's because this tune is a lot faster than this one, of course. Now the big problem with manual beat matching is knowing which tune is faster than the other. It's kind of like trying to do two things at once, trying to listen to both tunes together. But we know this one's faster, so we've taken away half of the difficulty. So let's slow it down a bit. Slow it down, you can see I've slowed it down a couple of notches there. And without worrying too much about where we are in the phrasing, let's just start it and have a listen and see whether it's a little bit closer. Okay, I'm going to press Q again to go back to the beginning because that was a little bit better but not much. So let's make another big move. Move down another couple of notches. Okay, so that took maybe 4 beats before it started to sound bad. Let's try again. Maybe 6 beats at a time. Let's slow it down again and have another go. Now that's sounding really good. We know it's always going to get a little bit faster because we're slowing it down carefully. Let's cue it again and just slow it down the tiniest a bit. We don't want to go too far because then we're back to worrying about whether this one's faster or slower than the other one. And let's try it this time around. By the way, if you do think you started it a tiny bit too early or a tiny bit too late, that's what the jog wheels are for. You can use these to just adjust it very slightly. But that's sounding pretty good to me. Yep, that's all sounding great. So we've just manually beat matched that tune. Brilliant. So now all we need to do is bring all this together. We know about our phrasing, we know about our counting, and we know about how to manually beat match on any gear because of course this stuff is on any gear. So let's have a go. Let's have a go at doing a proper beat mix without using the dreaded sync button. So what I've done is put a cue point on this tune, which is our outgoing tune if you like, somewhere near the end. It's kind of like towards the end of a break. And this tune's waiting for me to start it on the first beat. So let's start this first tune playing on that cue point near that break. 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4. So we're counting an 8-bar section now. And then I'm going to start this one at the end of the section. 3, 4, 8, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3. So now we don't have to count anymore, we know we've lined them up. We know the BPM's correct, and they're playing away nicely together. The outgoing tune has just gone to the kind of end section, which is just some strings. And the incoming tune has got its beat playing away nicely there. 7, 2, 3, 4, 8, 2, 3, 4. And there's that bass line. And I'm sure you'll agree that was a pretty tight mix, all done without using sync.
So back here at Ministry of Sound, I'm in the quietest place I could find, which is here in the green room where all the artists hang out backstage when they're not DJing. So now you know why a thorough understanding of counting, phrasing and manual beat matching gives you the basis on which all DJs build great DJ sets. You also know that it doesn't matter what gear you're using, not one bit. You can get better at this on pretty much anything. In the next video, we're going to talk about how the pros think a little bit differently to everyone else. Because it's one thing to understand your gear and to have that toolbox of mixing skills that gets you past go. But how do you actually then go on to apply that stuff to get yourself noticed? How do successful DJs do it? We'll go into detail as to what exactly it is that DJs who get recognition, money, satisfaction from this game know that you don't. The aim is to get you to a place from where you can easily get the results you want. Whether those results are making a killer mixtape that people love, hosting a successful online radio show, playing your local club, getting paid for it of course, or maybe just maybe playing somewhere like here, like Ministry of Sound. So in closing this video, I'd like to ask you to let me know in the comments below what you think of today's lessons, and if you've tried to apply one or both of these skills, how it's gone, how this stuff's helped you, or what challenges you still got. On a broader basis, I want to know what you're finding to be the hardest thing about improving your mixing, whatever your music and whatever gear you use. As always, I'm going to be reading every comment. I'm going to be jumping in to help you. So please talk away. I'm looking forward to getting stuck in, helping some of you guys out. And if you don't comment down there, I'll definitely see you in the next video.